Hey, this is Cameron Harrington. I'm doing my second teaching thing. It's supposed to be recorded like it's a Zoom, but I just did it like it's in front of a few people. Uh, we're just going to go over the topic of history and what exactly is history. If you go to your second slide, how would you define history? What?
Ooh,
Go ahead.
stuff that happened in the past.
Okay. What are... That's correct. Now, what are different ways to, say, record that history?
Ooh,
Yes.
you could write it down.
Okay.
That was
What-
my option.
Kiana, what's another way that you
Um,
could possibly tell history?
By like sharing stories through like passing it down to like, oh, my children know it. Now my children are gonna tell my children.
Yeah. Okay. What's a Disney version of like say passing down a story? What? Think about it.
Like
What?
a fairy tale or
You got the fairy tale.
Like a
Now-
myth?
Now, what do
Fable?
they make the movies? What kind of movie do they make?
animated?
A
musical.
Musical.
Oh.
So if you go down to the next slide, it talks about sagas, which are basically musicals for history. They would often be storytelling, often accompanied by instruments or some sort of ritual done by a group of people that would tell the history of, say, a tribe, a group, or just an overall culture. The most popular examples that we have are the Vikings. They would often tell stories about the Norse gods, about a serpent that would surround the flat earth, and would keep the oceans entangled into it. These kind of stories aren't necessarily always accurate. They usually change generation to generation, always meant to somewhat be a living document almost, where each person that tells a story emphasizes a certain point. Can you guys think of anything that changes over time, or that you might have seen change? Like, say, like the Disney movies where we grew up with, say, Aladdin, the animated version, and then it came to a live action version, and there's some subtle differences. Trevor, would you like to?
Well, I know the Disney movie Tangled is a lot different than the original Rapunzel story.
Yes, that's a great example. It changed to more modern sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Kiana, do you have any idea or something in your that you know to be right, but you once thought was slightly different?
I feel like that's a good example because like all the original Disneys were really like kind of evil almost and like very dark, and now they're kind of just like, haha, we're princesses. You know, very different in like how they tell the story. It's all happily ever after, whereas originally it wasn't.
Yeah. I think that's a great example. Then we move on to epics, which are a form of written history, but also carry a lot of fantasy elements within it. One of the popular examples, or the most common example known, is the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is just a story that is told by it was the ancient Babylonians, that whenever they were first forming their society, it's what they believed to be their creation myth. It entangled just a lot about their culture and overall history from where they come from. It is, like I said, written. It does focus on like a central character. This character can often be some sort of godly figure, or you can see in the Greek epics, like the Odyssey and things like that, where it's a human character that does have flaws, but for the most part is kind of a central note just to bring together an overall theme of either their culture or some sort of thing that they're trying to teach their children. Can you guys think of any epics that would be going on today?
John Milton's Paradise Lost. It's a modern epic.
I'm not too sure about that one. What's that?
It's an epic about Adam and Eve, and it's the most modern one I know of.
Okay. I was thinking something a little different. Now, we were talking mostly about literature, but for like our more modern sensibilities, go back to movie making. An epic could be something like just Star Wars, a fake fictional world that can also have something to apply to current day sensibilities. I did hear something about Percy Jackson, which, yeah, that is a modern epic, I would say. Is there any other epics that you could think of?
Like modern day epics,
Modern or past?
Harry Potter.
the Iliad.
The Iliad.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Harry
One of my
Potter.
favorites.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it as a modern epic. And then we move on to the most common form, which is what you see in most textbooks, is written history. This tries to determine what is fact, what is fiction. This tries to get into all the more geopolitical elements of a culture or a society. There is often still bias whenever you have to read from one historian from another. They come from either a certain point of view or they're trying to understand it from a different form of context. And this written history, while the documents don't change, our understanding of them does. Would you see anything like that with either modern written history or something that you've grown up with that's changed over time?
Like the Constitution, maybe?
Okay.
That
Yeah,
kind of
it's-
changes over time, and we kind of try and look at it in different ways.
No, that's a great answer, especially with how there's still debate. Is it a living document or is it a stationary thing
Mhm.
that isn't supposed to change? Do you?
I
do
mean,
that?
would the Bible be technically in there as well? Because although it's not like taken as like specific history, it still like changes depending on how people look at it and what their beliefs are.
Yeah, I think that would definitely relate towards the bias aspect from
Mhm.
where it's coming from. I think, like, to go with the further on that point, is that Ethiopian version of the
Mhm.
Bible has extra books, and they've had it for a very long time, I think, since whenever the more European canon was also established. So to have those two, not necessarily competing ideas, but still the same text, but slightly different, that's kind of what we talk about with like written history, or what to take as reality and what to take as just somebody trying to add something. Trevor, do you have anything to add?
I'm not sure. Teach. I mean, obviously, you brought up Norse mythology earlier. I mean, that changes all the time. Like the different names and stuff, especially.
Okay. Yeah, is there anything more written? I know we talked about the Constitution, the Bible.
I don't know. Teach. I mean, like the Quran would probably fall into the same category as the Bible, just some religious text that is under the same kind of,
Oh
I
yeah.
suppose, category.
Yeah, kind of like
Anything from like ancient Egypt too.
yeah. I think it was
As
whenever
we decipher more and
yeah, I think that was
find
whenever
it.
we were kids is whenever we learned what the hieroglyphs actually meant. I think
Mhm.
that's whenever that was discovered. So yeah, things are always being discovered and renewed based on our current understanding of the situation. Oh yeah. So that is my teaching on what is history.
What an excellent